All right, welcome back to another edition of the Horseman Pro Football Talk podcast, and I'm Brad.
Nah, I'm Hefe.
All right, we got one more AFC South team to talk about, which are the Houston Texans. And the big question that everybody wants to know is, are the Texans, are they going to get it turned around? Are they going to fix it this offseason? I mean, they've just been in shambles. Lovie Smith's gone. Gave him one big last fuck you before he left. Handed draft picks to Chicago. Are the Texans are they going to get it fixed?
You know, I think going back to last offseason and what they did in the draft specifically, like they had a pretty good 2022 draft. It wasn't, spectacular, but they got some good pieces to build on for the future there. And I think what they've already done, like if you look at free agency, like they had 21 guys leave going into free agency, none of which were really anybody of note. They just traded away Brandon Cooks, which was inevitable. He was pretty much a free agent. He was going to be not a Texan in 2023, pretty much no matter what. But what they've done, they brought a lot of guys in, and not a whole bunch of huge names, but you have Robert Woods coming in, who is a reliable receiver. You have Mike Boone coming in from the Broncos at running back to back up Dameon Pierce, which I thought was a good move. You have Case Keenum, a veteran quarterback, coming into the room, a guy that's been all around the league, has had a little bit of success, obviously made it to the NFC Championship playing with the Vikings, coming in to back up whichever rookie that they're about to draft. Jimmy Ward is a good safety. Like they brought in some good guys here, Sheldon Rankins to fill out that D line. So I think what they've done so far with D'Amico Ryans coming in a head coach and the coaches that he's been able to bring in around him and what they've been able to do in free agency, like it lends a hand into what they're going to do in the drafts. We know they're going to select a quarterback, and right now obviously that's up in the air. Frank Reich just came out and said the Panthers have no idea who they're taking, so it's really anybody's pick who the Texans are going to have at quarterback. But I think what they've done so far is promising. What they did last season was promising, and I think it'll be interesting to see what this team does in the upcoming draft.
So a couple little things I want to tag in on some things you brought up. First of all, Frank Reich knows exactly who he's going to take. He just doesn't want anybody else to know who he's going to take, which is CJ Stroud. I would put money on that. But they got to play the game, right? I've heard Lamar Jackson's name be thrown around with Houston because they have the picks, they have the ability to work in the work of that deal, and they definitely need a quarterback. That would be an interesting development. And there's a couple places there's not a lot of places he could go, but there are a couple, and the Texans being one of them. So that would certainly change whether they're looking for a quarterback or not. Bring in the tried and true, or go with a young kid.
That would be interesting. Obviously, as a Colts fan, I want no part of Lamar Jackson going to Houston. But that's something that I hadn't even thought of. I've thought the Colts trading would make sense, probably because we keep trading for guys every offseason to bring in. But I think that would make a lot of sense for Houston. They obviously they have the cap space to be able to make a move and do something like that. And obviously that would be a huge get for them. Obviously I hadn't thought of that. I have Houston actually drafting CJ Stroud. I know you think the Panthers will draft him. I think the Panthers are going to draft Bryce Young, and that'll leave CJ Stroud to go into Houston. That's who I have them taking. Which isn't really any better. Like when we talked about the Colts earlier in the offseason, I had mentioned that I would like CJ Stroud to be the Colts quarterback. Like ideally, that's who the Colts select in the 2023 draft. So I don't want CJ Stroud in the division either, but admittedly, that would at this point be better than Lamar Jackson being in the division and not being on the Colts.
Yeah. And here's an update. I don't know. I don't think you mentioned this, that Buffalo Bills have signed Devin Singletary. The Texans have signed the former Buffalo Bills running back Devin Singletary just a couple hours ago. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten they got him, and they got the former Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz to come in and fill one of the biggest holes still left on the roster. So a couple of big gets for them.
Yeah. Well, we know as of right now, it appears that the South has to go through Jacksonville. We believe, as Colts fans, that the Colts should be able to do that in the next year or two. depending on how the Jaguars develop, and of course what Shane Steichen can do with the Indianapolis Colts. But I have faith that's going to be good things. So Texans fans, you're probably a couple years from being able to do that, but if they can put the pieces together, this should be the start of moving in the right direction finally after the Deshaun Watson fiasco. So, and we're Colts fans, but we do want a competitive league. We do want a competitive division. We want good games. We just don't want you to win. So we're rooting for you in that department.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like, and I can't remember, I feel like I said this before, but like it feels like DeMeco Ryans and the way that the Texans need to build, this is going to be like Dan Campbell with the Lions, where the first year they're going to lose a lot of games, but toward the end of the year, they're going to be closer. They're going to be more competitive. They're going to look like a team that can compete. And then I think going forward, a guy like DeMeco Ryans with what he's going to build there in Houston, I think they'll be set to go in the future with whatever quarterback they decide to draft.